Hey everybody, how you guys doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Okay, we are live. We are live. Let me button up my shirt. We are live. We are live. We are live. Let's wait for everybody to get on in here, and then we will get it started. Let's wait for everybody to get in here. Got a good breakdown for everyone coming today, so let's do it. Hey, how you doing? How you guys doing? Welcome in. Welcome in. Let's just allow everybody to kind of sign on in, and then we'll get it going. Let's just give it a few seconds, and then we'll get it going. Hey, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Very positive. Yes, same here. Hey, how you doing, Anthony? Welcome in. Welcome in. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Okay, so make sure you guys just hit the likes as you come in. Let's wait for everybody to kind of come on in here, and I'm gonna give you guys my breakdown to what I believed happened yesterday in game one. So we're gonna talk about that. Hey, Edwin, how you doing? How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Boogie was bullying Ruby. Yeah, I like Boogie yesterday. Don't worry, we're gonna get into the game. We're gonna get into the game again. Y'all know the procedure. Let's just wait for everybody to kind of catch up to the live, and then we'll get it going. So let's give it about a few minutes, and then I'll see what you guys are saying. Hey, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? How you also say what's good to Marco? Marco's also in here. Again, if you guys want to live chat on Dreamers, live chat during the game, Marco's going to post the link to Dreamerspro Max. He's going to post that in the comments, and I think he's going to pin it to the top. And then yeah, so once he does that, you guys can access it there. So say what's good to Marco. Marco's also in here while we wait for everybody to kind of come on in. People are trickling in, so let's give everybody a chance. Yeah, we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the game. Thank God. Well, first thing I want to say before we start, while we wait for people to come in here, we've only been live for 2 minutes. Let's allow everybody a chance to kind of catch up to what we're doing. First thing I want to say is thank God that what is it? That we all have. I think some of us can think for ourselves, and thank God for independent media because people today, some people out there trying to make it bigger than what it is. And everybody got to do their job. So thank God there's balance out there. So we're gonna give you guys our take and how we see it. Hey, how you doing? Welcome in from France. Welcome in from France. How you guys doing? We need to play Pat Bev less and Rondo more in the series. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. It's kind of hard to really understand the direction the series is gonna go and the kind of things you have to do either before the series starts or after one game. It's only been one game. So coaches don't make adjustments after the first. I mean, obviously you make quarter to quarter adjustments, but I don't think that's going to be the case. You just got to wait a little bit. Welcome in from Indonesia, Canada. I see you guys out there. See, Billy had a good takes. Clippers would be just fine. Hi from Saudi Arabia. Welcome in. Yeah, I think that listen, some people out there are just going to work as hard as they can to paint a picture, right? The media is quite predictable. I think it was on we were on Dreamerspro Max last night, and I think towards the end of the game, I said I can pretty much bet you what some people are going to say today on the media. But to be quite fair, some people kind of had like a measure approach, to like a measure analysis. The only person that I kind of heard out there, kind of like just kind of blowing hot air, was probably I would have to say it's Kendrick Perkins. While we wait for everybody. By the way, guys, this is not the analysis. We're just waiting for people to kind of catch up. So just kind of talking, giving everybody a chance to kind of catch up to the live. Yeah, but Kendrick Perkins was the only one kind of going up there talking about Paul George. And you know what I think? Well, Kendrick Perkins is a former basketball player, so I kind of would expect a little bit more from him to like at least explain actually what happened. That's the first thing. We got to expect more from Paul George and all of this different stuff like that. Kendrick Perkins talks like as if he was Michael Jordan out there, somebody when he was playing, or he was Tim Duncan. He says stuff about players like as if it's something he could even do. It's like, come on, you got to be better, Paul. Like, what are you talking about? You couldn't even do any of that. So I just think Perkins sometimes takes it a little bit too far, but that's just my opinion. Hey, appreciate that. Yeah, they didn't bash as much because if I think if you tried to bash the Clippers today, you would end up looking silly. Truly, I believe you'd end up looking silly because if you watch that game, there's nothing to be bashing about. Like, in my opinion, there's nothing to really go up there and start bashing the Clippers about. Although I think some Clipper fans took it kind of personally that they lost, but you're going to lose. Like, I think we just went through this for a series just already. So I don't think it should be any surprise that you're going to lose a game in a series. So I think people just need to control their emotions. Okay, make sure you hit the likes. We're going to start in about 10 seconds. And it will allow everybody to kind of catch up. And whoever catches up, catches up. But we're going to do our best here. So let's give it about 10 more seconds and we'll get it going. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, real quick. So a few things I want to say. Again, for those of you guys that want to live chat during these games, during the playoffs, make sure you check out Dreamerspro Max. You can live chat on there, talk about basketball, all these different things. So you guys can do that. Marco's pinned it to the top of the link to the top of the description in the comment section there. So you guys can do that. Get 7 days of access. I'm sure you guys are going to do that. There were a lot of people on there chatting last night during that game, and I was on there as well. So you guys can also do that. Again, for the people that are coming in, make sure you hit the likes, and then we'll get the thing going. Anyway, so let me get into the game here. I got a lot of stuff I want to unpack. So let me just get into the game, and let me get into my first initial thoughts about that game. First of all, what a game. That was a hell of a game, to be quite honest with you, man. It was competitive. It was exciting. It was fun to watch. And I got to tell you, in the first half, or pretty much throughout the entire game, it was a really, really fun game to watch. And I was just like, I'm so happy that we're going to be in for a great series. I think going into the game yesterday, I think I had this series going 7 games. Yes, that's the prediction I made. I think this series is going to go 7 games. So I'm expecting a very long and entertaining and a hard-fought series. So if I expect the series to go 7, I saw some people yesterday, they expect the series to go 6 or 7. Then I don't understand why you'll be shocked if a team loses. So that's the first thing I want to say. So I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the physicality. I actually kind of hope that the refs allow them to get a little bit more physical with each other. I saw Marcus Morris Sr. kind of going at some of the guys on the court. I think it was his name, Royce O'Neal, was kind of chippy out there. A lot of these guys out there were very chippy, which is something that I like, to be quite honest with you, because I think it makes the series more interesting. I think guys play with more passion as long as they don't cross the line, right? You don't need to start shoving people or doing any kind of dirty plays. But I like that kind of stuff because it makes the series more chippy and it makes it a little bit more contested, right? So those are that's one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to in this series. But I have to say something though before we get into the analysis of the game. There's something I gotta ask, or not ask, but I have to say, or ask rather. The question is, how come nobody ever talks trash to Kawhi Leonard? Y'all ever notice that? Nobody talks trash to Kawhi when he's playing on the court. Nobody. I think is one of the craziest things. I have never seen any situation at any single time where somebody talked trash to Kawhi Leonard. The only time I can think back of was to years ago when I think it was Bonzi Wells or Sean Marion kind of got into something with Caron Butler. Exactly. Caron Butler was the only person that I heard talk trash to Kawhi Leonard. And I think Kawhi Leonard was probably like a rookie or a second-year player. But since then, I haven't heard anybody, even when Kawhi Leonard was playing in the game against Utah, they would boo him, but they would have no chance about him. Like I thought it was just interesting that nobody trash talks Kawhi. Isn't that strange? Somebody that good? Have you ever seen anybody walk up to Kawhi Leonard and trash talk him or give him a dirty elbow or give him a shot? I've never seen it. I think it's just the craziest thing ever. And listen, I think the reason is, and I think there's a lesson we can learn from this before we get into the analysis here. I think the first thing is this. The reason nobody talks trash to Kawhi, I think, is because Kawhi Leonard just goes about his job and his business. Kawhi Leonard, if you watch him in a game, you wouldn't know if he had 40 or he had 10 points. He looks the exact same. Even in game 6 when he scored 45 points and he was hitting those shots in the fourth quarter, The most I saw him do was just run down the court with his hands down like this, like, yeah, that was it. And I'm like, let that have been somebody else. They'd have been talking all kind of trash. And I think the lesson we got to learn from that is this. Be careful. Let me just say this now. Be careful of the words that you use, because you may bring unwanted energy to yourself. How you doing, Candace? You may bring a lot of guys talk a lot, and they're surprised when all of a sudden they get a lot of negative energy going towards them. You talk a lot, you're going to invite that type of energy. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to have anybody trash talking, because he just does his business. So I thought that was something pretty interesting. And just watch your words, because some people, you attract that kind of energy. You put out that kind of confrontational energy. People are gonna come for you. But anyway, so let's get into the game. I got a lot of stuff I want to break down here. But listen, I was very proud of the Clippers, actually. I know Shannon Sharp said, "Oh, the Clippers, blah 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 blah. They should be disappointed." He just up there talking. He just up there talking. Shannon Sharp is just mad that his team went home, and he needs somebody to hate on. So he's gonna hate on the Clippers for every single round. I think yesterday he said, was it today? He said, I got them going home in 5. Like, that's Shannon. He's just gonna hate, right? Salty fans are gonna hate on the Clippers, but I don't think anybody else is, like, nobody else is taking them seriously. But honestly, I gotta say the Clippers put up a good fight, man. To come out there after coming off of a 7-game series, you're going back to back to back, and just a day later, one more day later, they come out there and then they get another win. I just thought it was, they go out there and they play well in the first quarter. I just thought it was pretty incredible. Now they came out and I was surprised at how focused the Clippers were, because usually in a situation like that, when you're coming off of a 7-game series, you're going to be fatigued. You're going to kind of be emotionally spent. You're going to try to kind of take the day off. And the Clippers didn't do that. They came out there with a lot of intensity. They came out, they looked focused. They looked sharp in that first quarter. And I thought that they were, I was really proud of them, I got to say, in the first quarter. Game 1 was a mixture of fatigue, bad coaching, rotations, physicality. Yeah, it was a combination of all of those things. Thanks, Ryan. It was a combination of all of those things. But in the first half, you got to tip your hat. You got to tip your hat to the Clippers. Now, let me say this about the Jazz. If that was the best shot that the Utah Jazz could give the Clippers, I would actually be more worried if I was a Utah Jazz fan, to be quite honest with you. If that was your best shot after having 6-7 days off, if this was the best you can give a team that just came off of a 7-game series that was playing off of pure adrenaline, I think, in the first half, and you could only beat them by 3 points, I would not be beating my chest after that game. Now, I heard a soundbite that Donovan Mitchell had, I think, in the middle of the game, saying, "Oh, we tired them out. We're going to be fatigued." Yeah, they're fatigued. Like, you notice he didn't say they're going to give up because they suck. No, he said because they're fatigued. You had like 6 days off. That you come out, this team has you down. Now, some people say, well, wait a minute. The Utah Jazz came out extremely rusty in the first half, which I believe was the case. But you could make the case that the Clippers came out on just pure adrenaline. Had they had enough rest, they would have been able to play a more evenly balanced game. So it was a good win for the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz needed to win that game. All of the pressure was on the Utah Jazz. That's why they were scrambling in the second half. Like, let's not get it twisted. I know some people love to tell wonderful stories. Their whole job is to tell stories. Some of these guys should work for Pixar or Disney or one of these companies. All they do is tell stories. Oh, well, I'll be worried. No. You got it wrong. The Clippers are coming into they're the road team coming into a game 1. The Clippers had the home team down by 13 points that had rest. So the Jazz needed to win that game more than the Clippers. I think we kind of have to get that understood. The Jazz were supposed to win that game, right? The Clippers had a good chance, but the Jazz are supposed to win that game. They have been home. The Clippers are the ones that have been traveling. They played their last game in LA on Sunday. I think it was in the evening or in the afternoon. Then I think they traveled maybe that evening or the next day to another city. So I'm not going to act like I said, oh, the Clippers went out there and they just kind of wet the bed and all this. Ty Lue hasn't had time to watch film. Exactly. You pretty much have one game. Thanks for that, Candace. You pretty much only have one game to kind of game plan, 1 day, to game plan for the next series. So I'm not going to make more out of it than it was. They were in Utah. That crowd was unbelievable. Even me, as I was listening to the game, I was like, wow. I was finding it difficult to hear what some of the commentators were saying. So that was another thing that I said. I did say that I do believe that this is going to be a 7-game series, and I think it's going to be close most of these games. If you watch that game with a critical eye, I think it's very easy to see that both of these teams are evenly matched. No one with a straight face is going to come out there and tell you, "Oh, the Utah Jazz are much better." Then if they're much better, how can you be much better than a team that you only beat by 3 points? How can you be much better? So I think these teams are evenly matched to begin with. And there's some more stuff I want to get into. Get into here. Now, in the second half, I believe that the Clippers could have I believe the Clippers could have held on to that lead if they didn't get tired. I think fatigue played a role, and it's something that I said yesterday. Rust, the inverse of rust is fatigue. It's either you're rusty because you haven't been playing, or you're fatigued because you've been playing too much. I think fatigue definitely played a good role in that game. Another thing I want to say, Kawhi Leonard didn't have his normal Kawhi Leonard type of performance out there, right? He wasn't like Kawhi Leonard. He wasn't the Kawhi that we're all used to. And some people will say, well, that was because Royce O'Neal did a fantastic job on Kawhi Leonard, which could be true. But the question I have to ask some of the people out there that feel like Royce O'Neal kind of shut down Kawhi Leonard, do you believe that Royce O'Neal is going to turn into Dennis Rodman or Scottie Pippen or Ben Simmons or one of these players over this? Is that what you expect? So you're expecting that Royce O'Neal is going to shut down Kawhi Leonard? If Royce O'Neal was that caliber defender, he would be one of the best. He would be one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. They would mention his name. They would mention his name more. Kawhi Leonard, I think they blitzed him a lot, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. But if your hope is that Royce O'Neal is going to stop Kawhi Leonard from shooting 50% from the field in the series, good luck with that. If that's your hope, good luck with that, because I feel like I'm starting to get a sentiment in the air that we're going back to where we just came from. Because the next thing is, like, for instance, if the Clippers lose, the next thing is, oh, Kawhi Leonard is not that good of a player. Make sure you guys hit the like button, guys. Make sure you guys get the likes up. Kawhi Leonard is not great. It's not that great of a player. That's the next thing that's coming. And it's usually only comes from two group of people. Usually it's the same two groups. It's either casual fans that kind of watch the game casually and they kind of rely on certain people out there to kind of explain the game to them, or it's coming from Laker fans. These are the only two people. Laker fans and casual fans are the only two people that care whether or not the Clippers. I don't think it comes from anybody else. Truly. I don't think it comes from anybody else. The bench did a fantastic job yesterday. I think Paul George should have carried most of the load yesterday. The bench did do a great job, especially with Luke Kennard, but I'm not going to put it on just Paul George. Paul George and them played a lot of minutes in that last series, in that last game. It's not just we can't do this thing of we blame one person. And Clipper fans, y'all have to get out of this habit of picking and choosing. Some Clipper fans, let me talk to you guys. You have to make a decision. Is Paul George good or is he not? Make up your mind. If he's good, then please, not everything is going to be Paul George's fault. The last time I checked, a bunch of players played in that game. A bunch of players played. We're not going to do this thing of, oh, it's Paul George one day, then the next day Paul George is great, and then the next, like, we got to cut it. Is he good or not? Decide. Because if he's good, then it can't be this thing about is Paul George. I'm tired of it. Like, it's getting old. Like, pick a side and just stay there. Stop bashing him every second we get. If he didn't have a good game, it's one thing, but we can't blame everything on Paul George. Like, it's becoming too much. Like, come on, we gotta make up your mind. Is he good or is he not? If you feel Paul George is not a good player, then I can understand you. But if you feel that one day he's good, the next day he's bad, then I can't roll with you on that, because you're not even sure what position you have on the guy. Pick a side. It's either you think he's not a good player or you think he's a good player. But the back and forth with Paul George, I get tired of it. Paul George, he didn't have a great shooting game yesterday, but he played very well in the second half in that fourth quarter. Number two, he was in foul trouble. Foul trouble throws you out of a rhythm. And number three, in game 7, he came up big. He had like 10 assists. He played well. The Clippers don't win that game if Paul George doesn't play well. No one is going to tell me that Paul George is. So that's why when Kendrick Perkins said Paul George is reverting back, I'm like, what are you talking about? At least Paul George was an all NBA player. Who are you? Who were you? You sitting up there talking about Paul George. I can understand if he gives him an honest analysis, but it's like Paul George is turning into pandemic. Like, cut it out. Kendrick Perkins sometimes annoys me. He annoys me sometimes. Like, it's just come on. Like, it's too much. Anyway, let me get into the actual game. I think the Clippers came out with a lot of energy in the first half. I think they were only running on adrenaline in that first half. I think the Jazz were rusty as hell in that first half. And I think the Clippers pretty much got whatever they wanted to go in that first half as far as the shots that they wanted. The Clippers shot 47.6% from the field in the first half. Think about that, 47.6% from the field. So it wasn't like as if the Utah Jazz were out there playing Detroit Pistons, type of defense. They were playing. The Clippers were getting some good shots, right? They shot 47.8% from the three in the first half. We're talking about the Clippers now. So they were knocking down their 3-pointers in the first half. Their 3-pointers, what am I saying? In the first half, right? Both teams took a lot of threes, and both teams made a decent amount of threes in the first half. In the second half, however, is when Donovan Mitchell took over that game. And I think the Utah Jazz did something that they wanted to do. I think what they wanted to do was they wanted to break the Clippers' momentum. Because remember, the Clippers were up 13 going into the half. So I think what the Utah Jazz decided to do was this. I think they started to blitz the Clippers, and they started with a full court press. I think the reason that they wanted to they put out there the full court press is to make it a little bit harder for them to kind of get into their sets, and also to kind of take them out of their offensive flow. I like the fact that the Clippers were kind of mix and matching the type of lineups that they were using, starting the game going small, then bringing in Ivica Zubac, and then DeMarcus Cousins came out there, gave him some good minutes off the bench. I like what he brought to the floor. He stretched the floor. He hit some threes. He was a bit physical. Now the refs, the way the refs were calling the game, I thought was a bit uneven, and I think the refs kind of had it in their mind that, listen, I think the refs need to kind of make up their minds. Are you going to let these teams play physically or not? Make up your mind. If you're going to let them play physical ball, then call it the same way on both sides. But the refs, there were a lot of fouls out there that I didn't understand. The Clippers were getting some foul calls on them I didn't quite understand. So I think the refs did a bad job of not officiating the games properly. But I thought that Donovan Mitchell took over the game in that third quarter. In that third quarter, Donovan Mitchell scored 16 points. He took over in that third quarter. He took over by himself, right? And that really started to get the Jazz going in that third quarter. I think that Paul George was limited. To talk about Paul George now, if you were watching the game and not listening to Kendrick Perkins, if you were watching the game and not listening to Kendrick Perkins, you will notice that Paul George picked up 2 personal fouls in that third quarter. Or unless you say, oh, and also he should play great and not pick up any fouls. You know, you pick up fouls by being aggressive on defense usually, right? Usually that's how you pick up fouls. Paul George picked up 2 fouls, so he was limited in his minutes in the third quarter. Paul George didn't attempt a single shot from the field in the third because most of the time he was benched, or when they brought him back into the game, he was out of a rhythm. It's not like as if you just come into the game and all of a sudden you start shooting. And I'm surprised that some people, as basketball fans, I'm surprised at some people's comments. Like, you know, I'm surprised that some people are not really paying attention to what's actually happening out there. I think Kawhi Leonard tried to get it going in that third quarter, but he wasn't able to get as many shot attempts. Kawhi only shot the ball in the third quarter. He only shot the ball 6 times, and he made 3 out of those 6 shots. Right? He didn't attempt that many shots. I think that the Utah Jazz did a good job of trying to make Kawhi Leonard pass the ball. And they were kind of running like a soft double team at him. And Kawhi Leonard had to make certain reads in that third quarter to kind of get the ball to the right shooter. So the Jazz did some adjustments in that second half that the Clippers had to adjust to. Remember, the Clippers, when they're coming out of the half, They're already up 13. So essentially, in their minds, I think Ty Lue and his coaching staff are thinking, wait a minute, we're up 13. So that means that what we're doing is working. So you got to leave it to the Utah Jazz to come out there and kind of make adjustments to what they were doing in that second half. So that's one of the things that I also want to pay attention to. Donovan Mitchell just went off, and he was sensational. And I think the Clippers ended up getting outscored in that third quarter by 13 points. And because they got outscored by 13 points, and the Utah Jazz were down by 13, I think going into the fourth, the game was tied at 75. So it was all even. And I think in the fourth quarter, when the Clippers needed to make that push, two things hurt them. I think a lack of energy and some poor execution down the stretch. And I'm going to get to the last play of the game as to why Ty Lue didn't call a timeout, because I thought it was smart that he didn't call a timeout in that particular instance. In the fourth quarter, the Clippers shot 40% from the floor. The Jazz shot 53%. So the Jazz were able to get a lot of the stuff that they wanted. And Donovan Mitchell again scored another 16 points. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George combined for 22 points in the fourth quarter, and Paul George scored 10 points because he was finally starting to get into a rhythm. However, I think the Clippers' pick and roll defense wasn't very good on Donovan Mitchell, and I'll tell you why. Whenever Donovan Mitchell ran a pick and roll, the Clippers would show on the pick and roll, right? As they showed, and the man that showed was rolling back to the other guy, the guy that set the pick would somehow drag the original defender away, so Donovan Mitchell kept on turning the corner. If you watch the third quarter, some cases in the fourth quarter, that's what happened. He would just go around the pick and turn the corner and go to the basket for a layup. And because of his athleticism and his wingspan, he could easily get to the rim and score. He got a lot of layups going to the basket, and I think he even had 1 or 2 and 1 calls. So if you look at that pick and roll defense, the guy that was showing hard was doing his thing, but the guy that was supposed to get back in front of him did not get back in front of him because of the pick dropped back, sucked him in, and before you know it, he had a clear lane to the basket. And at that point, the guys that are at the rim, like Marcus Morris Sr. and those other guys, they don't want to commit to that drive, because if they commit to the drive, he can hit the shoot in the corner. And remember, the Utah Jazz can shoot the three very well. So these are tactical mistakes that the Clippers made that they need to clean up. I'm not panicking at all. I'm not panicking at all. I think these are some things that are correctable and some things that they need to solve. So, hey, welcome in. How you guys doing? So, to my conclusion, I think the Utah Jazz and the Clippers are evenly matched teams. I don't think you can say definitively that, oh, the Utah Jazz are just way better. Or you can say definitively that, oh, the Clippers are way better. I think both of these teams are evenly matched. I think the Jazz took care of home court. They guarded they played well at home, and they won game 1. I think the Clippers have some things working for them, working in their favor for game 2. The Clippers are playing tomorrow. However, after game 1, after being in Utah, the Clippers don't have to travel again. And given the fact that they don't have to travel, they can stay in a hotel or whatever it is and get some better rest, because, when you're traveling, you don't really rest as much. So they're going to be there resting. And I think the Clippers are going to be able to kind of get their legs under them again. And I think they're going to be a little bit fresher. I think they're going to be a little bit fresher going into game 2, in my opinion, because they don't have to travel. They're going to be playing every other night. So the Clippers need to kind of find a way to get some rest. I think they're going to do a lot of treatment and stuff to kind of make sure that, guys are kind of recovered, or get them as recovered as possible. If you also notice in the box score, if I pull up the box score here in the game, and if we do the entire game in all periods, if you notice something will stand out to you. Kawhi Leonard and all these guys were playing 40-plus minutes in game 7. Kawhi played 36 minutes yesterday. Marcus Morris Sr. played 33 minutes. Nicholas Batum played 20 minutes. Paul George played 37 minutes. Reggie Jackson played 17 minutes. Luke Kennard played 29 minutes. So Rajon Rondo played 28 minutes. Essentially, what that tells you is fatigue played a role. If those guys were playing under normal circumstances and they were playing their usual 40 minutes, I think you see a different result. If you look at a lot of those shots that Kawhi Leonard was missing, those are gimmies. Those are bunnies. Kawhi Leonard shot 60% in the first round. 60. So I don't want to hear anything about, oh, Kawhi is this, Kawhi is that. Go look at the box score. Go look at actually what happened. Dissect it. Stop allowing these guys on TV to trick you and pull a wool over your head and tell you, oh, this and this and this. Paul George, you don't listen to what these guys are saying because most of the time they're not up there analyzing anything. I think the Clippers will come out with a little bit more intensity in game 2 because I think they have to. I think PG needs to be more engaged. And let me mention Paul George in one instance here because I did defend him earlier, but there's something I want to say about Paul George here. There was a play in the third quarter that I thought was completely inexcusable. And I texted about it in Dreamerspro Max. Candace and some of the people that are in the comment section will tell you. There was a play where there was a breakdown on defense, and Paul George was supposed to run out to the shooter, and Paul George just basically gave up. He threw up his hands like because it was a blown assignment, and Zubac was like pushing him, like, "Yo, bro, run out there." And then I was just like, "Wait a minute, that can't happen. That cannot happen. Not in the playoffs." And maybe it had to do with fatigue, maybe it had to do with frustration, but you got to contest that shot. I just thought that was inexcusable in a playoff game where you're trying to steal a game on the road. I thought that was just inexcusable. I thought that was inexcusable. I thought that was inexcusable, right? So for me, I just couldn't I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Just a second here. Yeah, I just couldn't believe that. I just couldn't believe that. So just give me a second, guys. There's something here that I want to remove. I think Marco has removed the person. Okay, just a second here, guys. Just a second here. Yeah, somebody was posting something very inflammatory that I didn't like. So we just got to remove that. That's unnecessary. We don't do that. So I had to just kind of handle that for a second. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. I think that was a bad example by Paul George, and I thought that was unacceptable. I think Ty Lue is going to make some adjustments. It's kind of hard to say whether or not he's going to play big or he's going to play small because I think he had success running both lineups. I think Rudy Gobert was a factor, and he was deterring a lot of those drives to the basket. I think the Clippers did a good job of putting him in foul trouble, which was something that was very, very, very smart, as I said before. But I also said that Rudy Gobert does a good job at contesting drives to the basket and blocking shots without fouling. You saw the last play of the game. Rudy Gobert is very good at that. So you're going to have to find a way to kind of get around that. The Jazz are a very good team because they have quick perimeter defenders that have good size to them. And they also have a very good shot blocker. So they kind of force you to kind of either make tough shots because their guys are going to keep coming at you. But you also have to be crafty to be able to draw contact. I think going at Rudy Gobert at the basket, you have to find a way to play through him and play through the contact and force the referees to draw fouls. But remember, as I said yesterday, he averages 2.3 personal fouls per game. So he's very good at playing defense without fouling. So it's something that the Clippers are going to have to be mindful of, right? There are a lot of things that they got to look at, but I think Ty Lue is going to make an adjustment. He's going to make some adjustments. What adjustments exactly he's going to make, I'm not sure. Last time I checked, I'm not a coach, and I don't play. And it's not my job to coach a basketball team. Thank God, because it seems like it's very stressful. But I think he's going to make some adjustments. I think rest is going to be a major key. I think he was able to see something from certain players in this series. Like they asked him yesterday, "Did you notice anything about your bench players?" I think you may see more minutes from Terrence Mann. I think Patrick Beverley did a good job in stints. I like the energy that DeMarcus Cousins brought to the floor, but I think he was kind of fouled. He was kind of refereed unfairly at certain points. Somebody mentioned about Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, I saw that Dwayne Wade was kind of giving a shout out to Donovan Mitchell and kind of giving him pointers on the court, which is totally fine because I think they said Dwayne Wade had some type of ownership stake in the Utah Jazz. So to me, that's perfectly fine. I mean, he's literally minding his business, literally. So I have no problem with that. As far as that, another thing I want to say, I think the Clippers need to do a better job on their pick and roll defense on Donovan Mitchell. Now, let me say this. Donovan Mitchell is shooting 40% from the three in the playoffs. He shot 38.6% from the three in the regular season. So he's improved his three-point shooting. The Clippers need to make a decision. Are they going to make Donovan Mitchell go and score 45 points every single game? Or are they going to try to get to their other shooters? Now, I personally don't believe Donovan Mitchell can beat you all by himself with his scoring, even if he averages 45 points a game. Fine, but if 45 points a game, at the end of the day, it's still 45 points. 45 points is not going to beat you in a game. It's not going to beat you. I think they need to do a better job at trying to guard him and deciding what type of play they want to make him, because you can't let him get those open threes coming off of those picks. As you saw, he got a lot of clean looks coming off of those screens, and then you can't let him drive to the basket as well. So you got to pick the way they want to guard him, and I think the Clippers are going to decide over this day off to kind of understand exactly how they want to guard him. I'm not sure exactly right now how they're going to guard him, but I think he's still going to be very dangerous. I hope they try to keep him on the perimeter and force him to keep knocking down those long threes. If he makes 40, 50% of them, so be it. At least you're not allowing the other guys to get involved. I think they need to find a way to be able to put Kawhi Leonard in different spots on the floor to be more effective. I need to see if Kawhi Leonard is going to be affected as far as with his fatigue in game 2. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on the minutes that they play. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on the way the referees are calling the game. If the referees are going to call it a physical game, then I think the Clippers need to play physically. I like the fact that Marcus Morris Sr. wasn't having any of it. I think you're noticing a difference with Paul George when he was playing with the Oklahoma City Thunder versus when he's playing with the Clippers. I think when he was playing against the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think the Utah Jazz tried to kind of intimidate you and rough you up. You're not doing that to the Clippers. I don't think there's any player that the Clippers look at on the roster of the Utah Jazz and like, okay, I'm afraid of this dude. I think there's no one. I think the Clippers have one of the nastiest teams in the league as far as dogs, as far as like rough riders. I think full of them. I would throw Marcus Morris Sr. in there for sure. I would throw Rajon Rondo in there for sure. I would throw Patrick Beverley on there for sure. I would throw DeMarcus Cousins in there for sure. You know, Serge Ibaka has no problem with throwing some fists in a game. Serge Ibaka's in there. I would throw in Kawhi Leonard too. You're not going to walk up to Kawhi Leonard and trash talk him. Royce O'Neal knows better. Like when Ron Artest would try to trash talk Kobe told him, you ought to know better than that. You ought to know better not to trash talk me. So I don't think the Utah Jazz are going to intimidate this Lakers team. Maybe if it was the Oklahoma City Thunder team with Russell Westbrook, who's very, very temperamental, who can kind of play into that entire thing, I think it could work. I was a little bit worried about Marcus Morris Sr. in that first quarter. I thought they were going to give him an early tech and throw him out of the game because Marcus Morris Sr. was with it. He was with it. And I love that about him because when you're out there, you need to play with a chip on your shoulder. Like, let guys know, like, we're playing basketball, but don't try to cheap shot me or get anything like that. They throw an elbow back. You know, if we have a scuffle, so be it. We settle up. But guess what? You won't throw that second elbow. Guys who keep elbowing you, if they know they can keep doing it, you're not going to do anything. If you elbow me, I'm going to elbow you back, and then we keep it moving. And then after that, they break it up. But you'll think twice. So I like the fact that Marcus Morris Sr. was stepping into between guys, getting in guys' faces, and I like that. And I hope it's a physical, tough series. It needs to be because the Utah Jazz are going to be coming at the Clippers. They're going to do it. That's how they play. They're very physical. They like to get up in you. They'll run a full court press, and you just have to be ready. You just got to be ready. You just got to be ready. So I like what I saw in game 1. I think the Clippers could have won that game. I didn't like their execution. I think in the last play of the game, Ty Lue decided not to call a timeout. And I think the reason was quite simple. I think Ty Lue didn't want to call a timeout because he didn't want to have their defense set. I think he wanted them to kind of create something. If you look at that last play, Kawhi Leonard got the ball, but I think he was trying to get the ball back to Paul George because I think Paul George was a little bit hotter than Kawhi Leonard in that fourth quarter. So I think he wanted to give Paul George an opportunity to try to close out that game in the fourth. This is just me. I think Kawhi Leonard showed a lot of confidence in Paul George to say, okay, take the game over. And for whatever reason, They couldn't get the ball back to them. Once the ball went to the corner, they couldn't swing it back to him, and then that was the issue. So I think it was a close game. I think we're in for a very good series. I think game 2 is going to be tough. I think game 3 is going to be tough, and so on and so forth. It's going to be a tough series. Utah are number 1 for a reason. Stop listening to these dudes with their wild analysis. The Clippers are the number 4. This is why you can't take a lot of these guys seriously. I'll tell you why. Kendrick Perkins, for example, and all of these guys that are talking about, oh, the Clippers should win, the Clippers should win, the Clippers should be ashamed, the Clippers should win. So if you felt that the Clippers should win, why didn't you pick the Clippers all this time when the playoffs started? Where were you? You feel so strongly in the Clippers, but you never picked them. Is when they lose, you not come out and say, but they should win. They should win the West. I never heard Kendrick Perkins has been flip-flopping all over the place. One day he's saying they should win the West. Next day you're saying, what's going on? They can't win the West. Which one is it? Do you believe they're a good team or not? You can't have it both ways. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do with the Clippers. They're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to say, well, they should win. But then when they don't win, but I told you they're not good enough. So which is it? Which is it? Just in the first round, they said Paul George had a bounce back series. Now, after game 1, Paul George is pandemic P. What are we talking about here? So I think the media has a very good scapegoat, and I think the Clippers are the scapegoat. Why is the Clippers a scapegoat? Because it's very simple. I think most people, casual fans, have been programmed into believing the Clippers are the scapegoat. I think this is all by design, and it's really done to drive views and ratings. I'm beginning to understand. That's all it is. That's all it is. People expect the worst from the Clippers. They expect the worst because that's what's been put out there. It's no wonder, like today I was looking, was it today? Or I think, was it today or yesterday? I heard a story about LeBron, and they were talking about, it was Shannon Sharp. It was Shannon Sharp that said something quite interesting, which was I think LeBron was talking about making a comeback. And Shannon Sharp said that, the reason that LeBron didn't play well, or the reason that the Lakers didn't advance, was because of his injury to his ankle. Folks, here on Dreamers Pro, we like to think we're not fools. We did a video. Matter of fact, because I kind of get tired of it, because a lot of people have some kind of selective amnesia. So let me tell you guys the video we did, because we did a video, and the video was this. We did a video. I just want to reference it quickly, and maybe I'll give you guys the link. Okay, here's the link, because some people like to be slick. Okay, some people like to be slick. Here you go. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to post this video at the end of this live. I'm going to post this video in the comment section, so you guys want to stick around for this. This video we published, we did this video 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. This is why you can't take these people seriously. 4 weeks ago, Shannon Sharp was on Undisputed with Skip Bayless. What happened? LeBron James and them were still rehabbing. You remember. Then Chris Haynes came on. Chris Haynes said that I've been in contact with the Lakers organization, because Chris Haynes, he covers the Lakers, and he said, from what I've been told by the Lakers and their coaching staff, is that LeBron James is healthy and he looks amazing and he looks great. He goes, those were their words. Now, earlier in that show, Shannon Sharp came out and said that LeBron James is injured and his ankle is bothering him. And then as Chris Haynes was saying that, Shannon Sharp goes, Chris, come on, man. Why are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that? And then Skip Bayless says, wait a minute. Whoa. Even the host, she says, but Shannon, that's not what you said earlier in the show. You told me that he was injured. And he was laughing. He goes, ha. Oh, no. I'm not injured. He wasn't injured. I was just trying to undersell him. Let me post a link for you guys here. You guys can go ahead and watch that video. I posted in the comment section. We did a video on this 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, you said LeBron was perfectly healthy. You also said when the playoffs started that they were going to beat the Suns. Then you said you expect them to win game 6. You guaranteed it. How can you guarantee LeBron and the Lakers are going to beat them in game 6 if he's injured? Help me understand that. How? You just said you expected them to win, then they lose. So yesterday, what Shannon Sharp was saying was, but you know, Skip, LeBron's ankle. And I'm like, what? His ankle? But you just said. So I say all of that to say this. These people are disingenuous. They tell you what you want to hear and people buy into it. And then they come here and they keep repeating the same points to me. I didn't go to Harvard, but I'm not that stupid. So I think a lot of you guys need to kind of do some research to just 4 weeks ago. LeBron, they lost because they weren't good enough. It's not because of his ankle. I didn't hear anything about his ankle when they were winning games. Has nothing to do with his ankle. They weren't good enough. Kawhi Leonard played in the playoffs 2 years ago. He was injured throughout the entire playoffs. You saw he would land and come down. He was kind of walking a little gingerly. Nobody's going to give him that benefit of the doubt. So please, let's just leave that where it is. Some people are so brainwashed. It's actually sad. It's sad that, you know, everybody's just been turned into like vegetables and we're just all kind of feeding into it. Just pay attention to the facts. So these guys, I don't want to get into it any further, but I think it's important that I said that I say that. And people can feel any kind of way they feel in the comment section, but the one thing they can't do, they can't dispute the facts. You could just get a compilation of clips and run them together and listen to Shannon Sharp contradicting himself. Just piece them together. And it's one day he's saying this, the next day he's saying that. Which one is it? Nick Wright said if Anthony Davis wasn't healthy, LeBron was good enough to take the Lakers to the finals. Y'all remember that? He said that. Like, so what are we talking about here? So I think it's a bit much. I think it's a bit much, and I think it's just important. I think it's just important that I said that we posted that there. So again, if you guys want a live chat for Game 3, make sure you go ahead and sign up to Dreamerspro Max. Marco's pinned the link to the top there. You can get 7 days of access. Also, we have a pretty good video, a video I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy. We got a video coming out a little bit later on the channel. Trust me, you guys don't want to miss it. You guys are going to definitely enjoy it. So they'll be on the lookout for that. We're definitely going to post it. I see some people saying it's very disgusting. I don't think it's disgusting. I think it's just the name of the game, man. I think it's one big game, and you got to understand when you are the game. You know, when they talk about, you want to talk about, who the punchline is? You're the punchline. It's not me. They're turning you guys into a punchline. Trying to think, got a lot of but that's part of the game. So I just thought it was really important. Now, as far as predictions, I'm not making any predictions after game 1. I need to see what type of adjustments that they make. Then I'm going to go out there and start looking at the team. But I want to see how the Clippers come out and play in Game 2, if they have more energy and if they've cleaned up their execution, because that's something I'm going to be paying attention to. I trust Ty Lue, actually. Ty Lue, he had some questionable moments in the first in the first round, but he's shown me that he can be a coach that can go out there and make some major adjustments in the series. So that's something I'm going to be paying attention to, and I trust he's going to make the right decision. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for being a part of this live. Again, don't forget to check out the video that we have coming up on the channel, and also don't forget to check out Dreamerspro Max. Marco's pinned that to the comment section. Once again, thank you guys. We'll probably do a preview for game 2 tomorrow. We're most likely going to do a preview for that, so stick around on the channel. But these are just my thoughts for Game 1. So thank you guys for that, and we'll definitely catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace out.